Habits of John Mayer. Yes, you guys have asked for this one quite a lot, so it's no problem with me because I love John Mayer. And as with all these habits lessons, they are not going to dive into exact tablature notation, how to play a song by John Mayer. No, we are going to be talking about his habits, his tendencies, what makes him sound like him, but also things that you can take out of his playing and implement into your own guitar playing, because we are all our own guitar players. We don't want to become John Mayer copies or Joe Satriani copies or Steve Vai copies. We want to parse out exactly what it is that makes them so brilliant on the axe and hopefully infuse some of those stylings into our own music. So the first thing I'm going to show you that John really likes to do is what I call the John Mayer bounce. It's like a bounce because of the rhythm, but really it's kind of like a slap. So it's like a bounce, slap, whatever you want to call it. And this is really reminiscent of like the Chet Atkins or Tommy Emmanuel style playing, where you use this rhythmic device to really add to the sound of not only the guitar part but the music itself. It really gets the listener bobbing their head, and it's really great for solo guitar players like John Mayer started out as. And he has this tendency to either do some finger picking, little swirly twirly things, or some other kind of fancy finger picking action, but basically he likes to do either a 2 and 4 beat with the hit, or he'll do just one beat to kind of keep the pulse where you know each measure happens is a downbeat. But a perfect example of that is his song Why Georgia, where it just has one slap per measure, but it really changes the licks. So this would be Why Georgia without the slap. Sounds nice, but check out the difference with the slap. So in order to get the most meaningful slap and the most kind of percussive piece of this, you really want to hit your hand evenly on the string. You don't want to be angled in any way. I like to hit the fat part of my thumb. And it's just a matter of being consistent with how you throw it in. So I'm just gonna, play a riff of my own. So you can hear. So I'm really trying to mute, honestly. I'm not necessarily targeting specific notes to try and pluck them. I'm basically, like, say your guitar is just making tons of noise. You want to mute it, right? And that is the action. And from there, it's all the left hand kind of taking care of business with the notes, but this right hand, depending on what finger picking style you're going for, the action of the slap needs to be as if you're muting each string. And I have my fingers placed in between all the strings. So that's like the single slap, the one slap per measure. He also kind of puts it on the 2 and 4, which is a groovy thing. I think the song Stop This Train. Yeah. So I'm doing 1, 2, 4, 2, 4. So normally you don't want to put the slap on 1 and 3. That's kind of like a nerdy, boring kind of groove. This is a really pop-oriented technique, and if you think about pop music, the snare drum likes to be on the 2 and 4. Obviously I'm generalizing, but to the listener, a 2 and 4 snare drum hit, just like what I played, is much more easier on the ear and much more groovy in my opinion. So the next habit I'm going to go over of John's, I like how I'm calling him John like we're friends. He really likes to use triads. He's rooted in the blues, and I love triads. John also loves triads, so we'll just say he definitely takes the Jimi Hendrix approach with using the thumb in the bass and doing things like that. But what's more is in his rhythm, he's a very rhythmic guitar player. I think he's one of the best rhythm guitar players I've ever heard. His soloing's great too, but I think really his forte is rhythm, and that has a lot to do with his influences like Stevie Ray Vaughan, who is also a rhythm master, but they both favor triads. So he will take little 2-note and 3-note chords and use them to not only fill in the gaps in between his vocals, but also kind of add new life to otherwise standard sounding chords. So an example of one of his songs, like Waiting on the World to Change, he would do something, I think the song is just like bar chords, but in an improvised context, I think one of his habits would be to use triads in place of those bar chords. So I think instead of this kind of thing, he would do something like this. So instead of using those big clunky bar chords, which there's nothing wrong with those, but using triads just kind of makes your guitar playing more Hendrixy, more like you're playing a piano instead of a guitar, which is a great way to fill in the gaps and make it seem like there's more than one man playing an instrument, and add singing into that, and you've got a John Mayer recipe. Side note, if you're interested in learning about triads and what the heck I just did, if you've never heard of that before, then my course Guitar Super System, linked in the description, is all about triads and all types of music theory, major scale, arpeggios, the modes, and all those great things, all packaged into one glorious, amazing course. So check that out if you're interested. Next John Mayer habit that we're going to get into is his tendencies to play these little double stop, real nice rake type things. And you can either do this with a pick or your fingers. If you notice throughout this lesson, I've been using just my fingers. That's definitely one of the ways that John Mayer gets his tone, is he does a lot of finger work, even if it's lead stuff. He's really doing that plucking to get any type of sound, but I'll grab a pick just to show you the difference. So here's the rake that I was mentioning, a little up close and personal here. We got the fingers and the pick. So both of them have their own distinct sound, both sound awesome. And essentially if you want to adapt this very lick to your playing, then whatever key you're in, if you're in like some kind of blues progression, then you can just take it like you would play the minor pentatonic scale and be on that fret. So that's just a fun little improv tool that John Mayer uses. But to go further, the actual habit, I think, is definitely the raking side of this. So he's always digging into those strings. Might be easier to demonstrate with a little bit of crunch. So the raking technique itself is pretty simple. You just want to basically mute every string that you are not intending to sound out. And with John Mayer and a lot of guitar players before him, it's actually this initial rake that people are missing a lot of the time. So here's the difference. This would be just a regular rake of this B note right here on the B string, 12th fret. But what John Mayer does is he'll actually prepare the rake with an up rake. So it'll actually be up rake, rake. And this up rake happens really fast. So see if you can, I'm going to see if I can do it slow, and then I'll put it in up the tempo. So that's slow, but in context is something like this. You see that attack, and it's even more effective with a bend. That's the motion there. So that up stroke is really going to give you that John Mayer beefy sound. Another really great example of this up and down raking, not in a soloing context, but actually in one of his riffs from John Mayer Trio. I think it's Who Did You Think I Was is the name of the song, but it's something like this. So yeah, that raking thing that he does is super badass. Sometimes I think he might overdo it, but hey, he's John Mayer. I guess he can do whatever he wants, right? So yeah, those are some of John Mayer's habits that you can adapt into your own guitar playing. We have the John Mayer bounce. And after that we had the Triads, right? So taking whatever song you want to, doesn't have to be a John Mayer song, and using triadic shapes in order to open up the sound and really give yourself access to more as a rhythmic guitar player, as a rhythm guitar player, or an accompanying guitar player. So make sure you learn your triads. On all string sets. So after that, I think we finished off with the John Mayer rake. So that up rake that's really fast and prepares the massive down rake. We're gonna need a little dirt to remember how to do this.